Thank you. Happy birthday, Harvey Milk, and happy Pride, Long Beach. So, I do have to make a couple comparisons. Long Beach has 40% fewer city council members, but double the number of openly gay or lesbian council members, which is awesome. And I don't think Los Angeles has any parks named after gay civil rights leaders either. So, amazing work to Robert Garcia, and I think all of us need to thank him again. And just a housekeeping thing, I see people in the back fanning themselves. I know it's crowded back there, and there's lots of open space here. So if the folks in front will come forward a little and make some room for the folks in the back. I know it's gotten warm. And it's warm because it's a fantastic turnout. So thank you to the organizers. And I do want to take a moment to acknowledge the community collaborators who put on this event. So thank you to Long Beach Lambda Democrats, to Catalyst, to the California Conference for Equality and Justice, Long Beach Pride, the AMP organization, Downtown Long Beach Associates, City of Long Beach Human Dignity Office, Robert Garcia, our councilman, the Long Beach Arts Council, Long Beach Lesbian and Gay Pride, Inc., Vayden Roi Galleries, and Los Angeles Alliance for a New Economy. So thank you to all of the co-sponsors. And the center. So, we're all here because we know that Harvey Milk Day is important, as all Memorial Days are for leaders in civil rights movements and otherwise. But I'd like to make the case that Harvey Milk Day is not more important, but more necessary than the others. And the reason is because our community is unique. We're an acquired community. You don't grow up at the dinner table learning from your parents what it is to be LGBT, right? We have to build our community. We acquire it through our life experiences, and we have to create this generational continuity. And so it's really vital for our community especially that we have a day like Harvey Milk Day that gives us an opportunity to reflect on who we are as a community, where we've been, and how far we've come. Today would be Sunday would be Harvey Milk's 71st birthday. And if he were still alive today, which he very well may be, if he weren't assassinated, he would be amazed at the progress our community has made. But I meant to do some homework last night and watch the Milk film again, but I didn't get a chance. But who all seen the film Milk? Probably most of the people in the room. So somebody's going to have to help me out. One thing I was curious about, did that movie start when he was in San Francisco, essentially? Does it tell much about his early life?
New York City.
It does start in New York City. So for folks who haven't seen it, and I want to reinforce it, we remember Harvey Milk as the civil rights icon. But what we may not remember as well is that for much of his life he was closeted and scared, like many of us grew up. He started off in the military. He was discharged as a lieutenant. He worked in New York for years. He worked on conservative presidential candidate Barry Goldwater's campaign in 1964. And he dated a guy named Craig Wadwell, who was an activist in the New York Mattachine Society. And Harvey Milk was freaked out by that. He did not want to be dating an activist. So his life started as a coming out experience that is so common across America and so common with many of us here today. And so it's important for us to always remember the life story because it's an American life story, it's our community's life story, and it helps us to remember that activism doesn't just spontaneously happen. It's a life calling based on experiences. And so what got him started in politics? And I think it's important still to continue kind of this narrative of his life because we need to build this generational continuity. What got him started is kind of bread and butter kind of life issues. He didn't get started in politics as a gay activist. He got started because he had some state sales tax person come and harass him at his Castro camera shop. He got started because a school teacher came and wanted to borrow a projector because their schools were underfunded and she didn't have equipment. He got started as an activist because he wanted to make a difference in people's lives, not just for individual liberty, but in the daily tasks that we all experience and go through. He ran for a supervisor first that same year. He had started Castro Camera. He had this experience with the state sales tax collector, and that'll set anybody off, right? So he ran first as a supervisor that year. He was, as everyone knows, a flamboyant campaigner. I mean, he gave fiery speeches. He was out there all the time, but his campaign focused on small business issues. He focused on government issues. He focused on gay rights as well, but he focused on matters that had to do with governance and business. And he carried the Castro area, but it's an at-large election in San Francisco, and he came in 10th out of 32 and was not elected. He ran for, let me say first, before he ran for office and again, he got much more involved in leadership in the gay community, in Castro in particular, and also learned from his first campaign that no matter how strong your message is, if you don't have people at your side and at your back, you aren't going to make it, not just in politics, but in life, in advocacy. And he realized that if you want to make a difference and you want to be an advocate, you need to be an advocate for all people. And that's when he got involved in the famous Coors beer boycott. And he made a deal. He said to the Teamsters, if you will hire more gay people, then I will get the bars in Castro to stop serving Coors. And he and others built a coalition that was extremely successful. And as you may know, boycotts are really difficult to win. And they did. And so that was one of the first political lessons of Harvey Milk, was coalition building, not just as a matter of political convenience, but rather because that's how you make a difference. That's how you succeed, is by building coalitions with labor, with environmentalists, with everyone else that comes to the table to make a difference in this world. He did run again for office. He ran for state assembly in 1976, and he came just 4,000 votes shy of winning. And the lesson he learned there was about his message of hope, because he ran a little bit of an angry campaign. And the guy who he lost to told him, Harvey Milk, you would have beat me if you weren't such a downer. If you weren't just kind of complaining about the established government and the business leaders, but if you gave people hope. And that's where he learned that lesson, was in another political loss. He learned you got to give them hope. You got to talk about not just what's wrong in life, but what we can all do together to make it better. So he ran again just 1 year later for the County Board of Supervisors. He ran on hope. He was endorsed by the San Francisco Chronicle, and he won handily in 1977. So his political life was brief. 1973, he ran for the first office. 1977, he was elected, and just November 78 is when he was assassinated. But what he did in council was emblematic of the lessons he learned. His first bill was, does anybody know? It was, no, that was bill number 2. The pooper scooper law, right? So law the number 1 bill was one of the most, well, it was certainly the most stringent, one of the earliest anti-discrimination laws in the country, covering LGBT people. Law number 2 was the pooper scooper law. And it's again that same philosophy, working in coalition, and if you want to make a difference, you need to address issues that matter to everyone, and you need to not be singularly focused in, for example, in his case, individual liberty, but rather speak to broad issues that you can work on in coalition. And so he carried that lesson in that first year that he was in office, not just in what he did on the Board of Supervisors, but also in being involved in Prop 6, the Briggs Initiative. So for those who aren't familiar, and I'm from Ohio, so people were always talking about Briggs Initiative when I got out here, and I'm ashamed to say I had no clue what it is. But the Briggs Initiative was a proposed law that would have made firing gay teachers and any public school employees who supported gay rights not just identified as LGBT, but supported LGBT people, mandatory. Fire them all. And the Briggs Initiative looked hugely popular when it was first proposed. But through the leadership of Harvey Milk and a broad-based coalition that he built, including Republicans and including ex-Governor Ronald Reagan and current Governor Jerry Brown, the Briggs Initiative was defeated by over 1 million votes. So he was successful in office, he continued to build the community, but as we know, his life was cut short. And for those who don't know the details of the story, his fellow board member, Dan White, had decided to leave the Board of Supervisors. It didn't pay enough money, he couldn't afford it, it was damaging to his family. He left the Board of Supervisors and right away asked to be readmitted. He appealed to Dianne Feinstein, who was the chair of the board at the time, and the board as a whole, to reinstate him. They declined. The assassination day was the day that George Moscone, the mayor, was set to have a press conference and announce Dan White's replacement. Half an hour before that press conference, Dan White slipped into City Hall and went to George Moscone's office and shot him 5 times. As he was leaving, ran into Harvey Milk in the hall, pulled him into a side office, and shot him as well. Dianne Feinstein is who discovered his body and then had to lead the city in this time of tragedy. Harvey Milk was a planner, and he also had a lot of death threats in those latter days. And so he recorded a lot of messages in those later days, and he actually, in anticipation that something might happen to him, he left a message for Dianne Feinstein about who should replace him. And she did. She appointed his named successor from his tapes, and I think a lot of people don't know that. But what a lot of people do know is that he also recorded a message for the ages. And it was, if a bullet should enter my brain, let that bullet destroy every closet door. If a bullet should enter my brain, let that bullet destroy every closet door. So we learned some lessons from Harvey Milk. Number 1, we learned you got to give them hope. You got to give them hope. Number 2, we learned coalition, coalition, coalition. Number 3, we learned we are most effective when our activism isn't constituency specific, but when we're working for all Americans. And number 4, come out. We need your truth. We need your life stories. The closet is a dangerous place for all of us. And we also know that there are many kinds of closets. There are closets of poverty, closets of mental health, closets of abuse, and all of those need to be broken. So what are you going to do? What are you going to do about this? I have a brief personal story. When I first started dating my partner, he's not at all an activist, isn't still so much today. And he wondered why I was going to all these meetings. And he said, I'm not sure how to deal with this. He says, I know how to be jealous of another person. He said, I don't know how to be jealous of activism, jealous of organizations. I said, well, you knew what I spend a lot of my time doing. I'm really passionate about it. And what did you expect? And he said, I don't know what I expected. I thought all this was what other people did. And I said, honey, I'm the other people. and that's true of everyone who's in this room today. Because, God knows we all need to go out there and make a difference in the world. And so thank you for being here tonight. Thank you for celebrating the legacy of Harvey Milk, and thank you for all the work that you do every day.